What everybody is really saying. Unlocking the hidden language of human behavior. Chapter 1. The silent language of power. Think for a moment about the last conversation you had. Did the words themselves carry the full meaning? Or did you notice something else? Maybe the way the person leaned closer, crossed their arms, or shifted uncomfortably in their seat. Chances are, even without realizing it, you were reading their body language. Human beings are constantly broadcasting signals, but very few people pay attention to them. This silent language is older than spoken words. Long before humans developed complex speech, our ancestors survived by reading nonverbal cues, a widened eye signaling danger, a defensive stance warning of threat, or an open palm showing peace. In today's world, the stakes may have shifted from life or death survival to social, financial, or professional success. But the body still speaks, and it never stops talking. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you focus more on what people say instead of what they show? If you're like most people, you probably place nearly all your trust in spoken language. Yet studies consistently reveal that the majority of communication is nonverbal. Words might tell a story, but the body usually tells the truth. Now imagine what it would mean if you could decode those signals with confidence. If you could tell, in seconds, whether someone is nervous or relaxed, open or guarded, honest or deceptive. Think about the power of walking into a room and instantly knowing who feels confident, who feels insecure, and who is quietly holding influence. This skill is not reserved for FBI agents or seasoned negotiators. It's available to anyone willing to pay attention. Here's the great news. Body language is a skill you can learn. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every meeting, every conversation, every negotiation will look different. You'll begin to notice the truth behind the mask people wear. And when you do, you'll have an advantage. An edge that can change not only how you perceive others, but how you present yourself to the world. Why words lie but the body leaks truth. Here's the paradox. People can rehearse words, but they can't rehearse their body. A politician can memorize a speech. A salesperson can craft a perfect pitch, but their nervous tapping foot, tightened jaw, or sudden avoidance of eye contact can give them away. This is why interrogators, negotiators, and skilled communicators rely so heavily on nonverbal cues. The body speaks from the unconscious. It leaks emotions people don't want to reveal. That's why when someone tells you, "I'm fine," but their shoulders are slumped and their tone is flat, you instinctively know they're not fine at all. You've experienced this before, haven't you? That feeling in your gut when someone's words didn't match their actions. Maybe you couldn't explain why, but you knew something was off. That's your brain picking up on nonverbal signals. The key is learning how to consciously recognize those signals so you can trust your instincts with clarity. The first step, awareness. Becoming fluent in body language starts with awareness. You don't need to change how you act right away. Instead, start by observing others. Watch how people walk into a room. Do they stride with purpose, or do they shrink as if hoping not to be noticed? Notice the little things, how they hold their hands, where their feet point, how long they maintain eye contact. You'll be amazed at how much you've been missing. For example, feet are often the most honest part of the body. Unlike the face, which we've been trained to control, the feet reveal direction and intention. Someone whose torso is facing you, but whose feet point toward the exit, is subconsciously showing they want to leave. Here's a practical challenge. Over the next 24 hours, observe 3 different people. Don't focus on what they say. Just watch their posture, gestures, and expressions. What do you notice? Write it down, even if it feels obvious. This simple practice will sharpen your observational skills. Pause and reflect. How much more powerful could your relationships, your business deals, or even your friendships become if you learn to see what others overlook? Your own body speaks too. Of course, body language is a two-way street. While you're reading others, they're also reading you. Every time you walk into a room, you're announcing something without saying a word. Are you projecting confidence or uncertainty? Are you signaling openness or defensiveness? Consider posture. Standing tall with your shoulders back doesn't just look confident, it feels confident. Studies show that adopting power postures actually influences your own mindset. When you open your body, you breathe more deeply. When you stand upright, your voice projects more strongly. Confidence begins to echo in your physiology, and people respond to it instinctively. So here's another exercise. The next time you walk into a meeting, pause before entering. Roll your shoulders back. Breathe deeply. Plant your feet firmly on the ground. Smile, not a forced grin, but a relaxed, genuine smile. This tiny ritual will change how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. The hidden edge of observation. Now, let's be clear. Reading body language isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding. When you become a skilled observer, you're not looking for ways to exploit others. You're seeking clarity. You're learning to listen with your eyes as well as your ears. Think of it like upgrading your vision from standard to high definition. Suddenly, you see the details, the nervous tapping of fingers, the subtle lean toward a trusted friend, the quick glance of approval from a leader to a subordinate. These are not random movements. They are signals, and together they create a language richer than words. And here's the beauty. Once you learn this language, you not only read others better, you begin to control the signals you broadcast. You become intentional about your presence. You learn how to inspire confidence, build trust, and connect more deeply. The journey ahead. This book will take you through every layer of body language, from the smallest micro-expression to the broadest posture of power. We'll explore how the feet, hands, eyes, and even the space around us communicate messages louder than words. We'll uncover the difference between comfort and discomfort cues, truth and deception signals, and cultural nuances you must understand. By the end, you'll not only know how to read others, you'll also know how to present yourself as someone who commands respect and influence. But before we move forward, let me leave you with this thought. Body language is not about catching lies or gaining advantage. At its core, it's about empathy. When you understand what someone's body is saying, you connect with their emotions, their fears, and their desires. You understand the person behind the words. And that's where true influence and true connection begins. So stay with me on this journey. By the end, you'll be fluent in the silent language that runs the world. And if you're enjoying this so far, don't forget, share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more insights. That way, you'll never miss the next lesson in decoding the hidden language of human behavior. Chapter 2. Reading the Room. Picture this. You walk into a meeting. The chatter dies down just slightly as eyes shift in your direction. A few people smile warmly, while others quickly glance away. One person keeps their arms folded tight, another leans back casually, and a third subtly leans forward, studying you. Without a single word exchanged, the room has already spoken volumes. This is what it means to read the room. It's the art of sensing the unspoken dynamics that shape interactions before words even matter. People often think communication begins when someone starts talking, but the truth is, it begins the second you enter a space, and those who master this art gain a hidden advantage. Pause and ask yourself, when you enter a new environment, whether it's a party, a workplace, or even a family gathering, do you notice the undercurrents, or do you just focus on your own nerves? If you're like most people, you're probably more concerned with how you look or what you'll say. But the masters of influence flip the script. They first observe. The power of first impressions, not yours, theirs. We all know first impressions matter, but here's the twist. When you walk into a room, it's not just about the impression you make, it's about the impression others are already projecting. Every person you encounter is broadcasting signals about their mood, their confidence, and their intentions. Think about it. A manager at the head of a table sits with hands clasped tightly, lips pressed thin. What does that tell you? Probably tension, maybe even frustration. Meanwhile, an employee at the corner relaxes into their chair with a soft smile, clearly more comfortable. If you tuned out those signals and only paid attention to the words spoken later, you'd miss the truth hiding in plain sight. Here's the key. The energy of a room always speaks before the conversation does. Those who tune into that energy make smarter decisions. The baseline of a room. Before you can interpret individuals, you need to understand the baseline of the group. Every room has a rhythm, almost like background music. Sometimes it's calm, other times it's tense, and occasionally it's full of excitement. So how do you establish a baseline? Start by scanning the room silently. Notice, are people leaning in toward one another or pulling back? Is the room buzzing with movement or is it still and quiet? Are faces relaxed or tight with tension? Once you have a feel for the collective atmosphere, you can begin noticing the outliers. The outliers matter most. In a calm room, the one person fidgeting stands out. In an energetic space, the lone silent observer often holds power. Scanning without staring. Observation doesn't mean staring. In fact, the best observers blend in seamlessly. A quick sweep of the room is all you need. Your brain, with practice, will start piecing together the puzzle automatically. Imagine yourself at a networking event. Instead of rushing to shake hands and push your business card, pause. Take 30 seconds to scan. Who's holding court in conversation? Who seems disengaged? Who's approachable? With a single sweep, you've gathered intelligence that can guide your next move. Now reflect. How many opportunities have you missed in the past because you walked in blindly instead of reading the room first? The leaders and the listeners. In every group, there are leaders, sometimes obvious, sometimes hidden. Reading the room allows you to spot them. Leaders often occupy more space, not just physically but energetically. They gesture more, others look at them more frequently, and they often sit or stand at the center of attention. But don't overlook the quiet ones. The true influencer isn't always the loudest. Sometimes it's the quiet observer in the corner whose nod of approval or subtle glance can shift the group's direction. Watch where eyes go after someone speaks. If people consistently glance at the same individual, that's the person holding influence, even if they barely say a word. Emotional contagion, the mood virus. Here's something fascinating. Emotions spread like viruses. If one person is anxious, it ripples. If another is calm, their presence stabilizes others. This is called emotional contagion. By reading the room, you can identify the emotional carriers. For example, in a brainstorming session, one negative person sighing and crossing their arms can drain creativity from the group. Meanwhile, a single enthusiastic participant leaning in and smiling can energize everyone. Once you notice who sets the tone, you'll know exactly who to align with or who to manage carefully. Your role in the room. Reading the room isn't just about observation, it's about adjustment. Once you sense the dynamics, you can choose how to position yourself. If the room feels tense, bring calm. If it feels scattered, bring focus. If it feels hesitant, bring energy. The most influential people are not those who bulldoze with their own agenda, but those who adapt to the existing energy while subtly guiding it in a better direction. Here's a quick exercise. The next time you enter a room, ask yourself, what does this room need right now? Confidence? Humor? Patience? Then embody that quality. Watch how quickly people gravitate toward you when you supply what the group is subconsciously craving. Avoiding misreads. Now, a word of caution. Reading the room is powerful, but it's not foolproof. You'll make mistakes if you assume too quickly. That's why it's crucial to look for patterns, not one-off signals. A person glancing at their watch once doesn't mean they're bored. It could mean they're checking the time for something unrelated. But if they keep glancing every 2 minutes, combined with restless fidgeting, then the pattern speaks. The secret is humility. Approach your observations with curiosity, not judgment. Instead of thinking, she's definitely lying, say, interesting. She looked away and crossed her arms when that question came up. I wonder why. That curiosity will protect you from false assumptions and open the door to genuine insight. The hidden benefit. Confidence. When you learn to read the room, something surprising happens. You become more confident. Why? Because uncertainty shrinks. Instead of feeling lost or out of place, you feel oriented. You know who's engaged, who's resistant, and who holds influence. You stop walking into situations blind. Confidence isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about knowing where you stand, and reading the room gives you that clarity. Bringing it together. So here's your practice for this week. In every group setting you enter, take 1 full minute before speaking. Use that minute to scan the room. Notice body positions, energy levels, eye contact, and outliers. Then jot down your observations afterward. With repetition, you'll sharpen your instincts until they feel second nature. Remember, most people charge into situations thinking only about themselves. But if you learn to read the room first, you'll always be 1 step ahead. And before we move on, let me ask, how might your relationships, your career, or even your family life change if you started tuning into the unspoken dynamics around you? If you're finding these insights valuable, don't forget, share your reflections in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. Each chapter builds on the last, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Chapter 3. The Truth in the Feet. When most people think about body language, they imagine the face, the smile, the raised eyebrow, the frown. Others might think of the hands, the gestures, the crossed arms, the nervous fidgeting. But here's the surprising truth. If you really want to know what someone is feeling, don't look at the face or the hands. Look at the feet. Yes, the feet. Those 2 overlooked messengers at the bottom of the body often reveal more honesty than any carefully controlled expression. Why? Because unlike the face, we rarely think about controlling our feet. They act as the most primal compass of our emotions, pointing us toward what we want and away from what we fear. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you noticed someone's feet in conversation? Probably never. And that's exactly why they're so revealing, because people forget they're even sending signals. Feet as directional arrows. Think of feet as arrows. They literally point toward interest and away from disinterest. If 2 people are speaking, and one person's torso is angled toward the other, but their feet are pointing toward the door, guess what? They'd rather be leaving. Their body is subconsciously preparing for exit. The same goes for attraction. In social situations, people often point their feet toward the person they find most engaging, even when their words or gaze suggest otherwise. At a party, scan the groups of people chatting. Notice where their feet are aimed. You'll quickly see who holds attention and who doesn't. Freeze, flight, or fight. The feet are also tied to our evolutionary survival system. Long before we learned to fake a smile, our ancestors relied on their legs and feet to respond instantly to danger. Freeze, flight, fight. These primal responses are still embedded in our physiology today. Ever notice someone suddenly tapping their foot rapidly in a tense situation? That's not just impatience, it's the body preparing to move, a subconscious echo of flight. Or maybe you've seen someone suddenly lock their feet still when a difficult question is asked. That freezing can signal discomfort, as if their body is bracing itself. Understanding these cues allows you to see beyond the surface. Someone may say, "I'm not nervous," but their bouncing foot betrays the truth. The dance of comfort and discomfort. Feet also reveal comfort and discomfort in subtle ways. Comfortable people often spread their stance, anchoring themselves firmly. They may cross one ankle casually over the other while sitting, or rest one foot lightly on its side. But discomfort tightens the lower body. Feet tuck back under chairs, ankles lock, or legs cross tightly. These are signs of protection, of pulling inward. Once you start noticing, you'll realize how often the truth sits at ground level. A story from real life. Let me share a story. A corporate trainer once told me about a negotiation he observed. On the surface, both parties seemed calm and collected. The lead negotiator spoke confidently, smiled often, and appeared composed. But under the table, his foot was tapping relentlessly. The opposing team noticed. They interpreted it as nervousness and pushed harder. In the end, His team conceded more than they planned. What gave him away? Not his words, not his face, not his hands, his feet. Now imagine if you were in that room and saw it. How much more strategic would your decisions be? Practicing foot awareness. Here's a simple exercise. During your next conversation, glance down subtly, of course. Notice where the other person's feet are pointed. Are they aimed directly at you? That's engagement. Are they angled slightly away? That might mean divided attention. Are they pointing straight at the door? That's a strong sign they'd rather be somewhere else. And here's a second practice. Observe your own feet. During a long conversation, notice where they drift. Do you keep them planted, signaling interest, or do they wander toward the exit? Becoming aware of your own nonverbal messages is just as powerful as reading others. Feet in groups. Feet also reveal group dynamics. When people form a circle at an event, their feet point toward those they include and away from those they don't. If someone wants to welcome a newcomer, their feet shift outward to make space. If they don't, the feet stay closed, subtly shutting others out. Watch this in action the next time you're in a social setting. The story of inclusion and exclusion unfolds silently at floor level. Deception at ground level. Can feet expose lies? Sometimes, yes. A deceptive person may manage to control their face and voice, but their lower body often gives them away. Feet that shuffle nervously, ankles that cross tightly, or sudden tapping when a question is asked. All of these can signal inner tension. But remember, context is everything. A person may bounce their leg because of caffeine, not guilt. That's why it's essential to look for clusters of cues. Still, when combined with other signs, feet often provide the missing piece of the puzzle. Why feet matter more than faces. Here's the big takeaway. People have learned to manage their faces. We smile when we don't mean it. We nod politely, even when we disagree. We train our voices to sound confident, even when we're trembling inside. But feet? Feet don't lie. They're the least practiced, least controlled part of the body and therefore the most honest. Pause and reflect. What would it mean in your life if you could pick up on the true feelings hiding beneath the polite smiles and rehearsed words? Your secret advantage. By now, you may realize why skilled observers, whether in law enforcement, business, or relationships, always watch the feet. They're like subtitles in a movie, quietly telling the real story beneath the dialogue. So here's your challenge. Over the next few days, make a conscious effort to notice feet in every interaction. Not in a judgmental way, but with curiosity. Who do people angle toward? Who do they angle away from? What happens to their feet when they're excited, or when the conversation turns uncomfortable? You'll be amazed at the honesty revealed. And remember, your own feet are speaking too. So the next time you're in an important meeting, check your posture. Plant your feet firmly. Keep them steady. Project calm and confidence not only through your words, but through your stance. Because whether you realize it or not, somebody else may be reading you. So keep your eyes open, but also keep your eyes down. That's where the truth often hides. And if you're finding this journey eye-opening so far, make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more. The next chapter will take us into the fascinating world of microexpressions, the tiny flashes of emotion that reveal everything someone's trying to conceal. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss it. Chapter 4. Microexpressions and Emotional Leaks. Imagine sitting across from someone who swears they're calm, confident, and in control. Their words are smooth, their posture steady. But for just a split second, so fast you almost missed it, you notice their eyebrows shoot up in fear, or their lips tighten in anger. Then it's gone, replaced by a polished smile. What you just witnessed is a micro-expression. These are fleeting facial expressions that last less than a second, and they're among the most powerful truth-tellers in human communication. Why? Because they're almost impossible to fake or hide. What are micro-expressions? Micro-expressions are tiny bursts of emotion that leak through before the brain can censor them. They flash across the face in as little as 1/15th of a second. They reveal the raw, unfiltered feeling someone is experiencing, even if they don't want you to see it. Think of them as cracks in the mask people wear. Someone may be trying to appear confident, but their micro-expression of fear betrays the anxiety underneath. Another might say they're not angry, but the quick tightening of their jaw and flare of their nostrils reveals otherwise. Pause and ask yourself, how different would your life be if you could spot these hidden signals in others? The 7 universal emotions. Research shows that certain emotions are universal across cultures. No matter where you are in the world, human beings display these emotions in similar ways. Happiness, a genuine smile that crinkles the eyes. Sadness, drooping eyelids, downturned mouth. Fear, wide eyes, raised eyebrows, lips stretched back. Anger, narrowed eyes, flared nostrils, tightened lips. Disgust, nose wrinkled, upper lip raised. Surprise, eyes wide, eyebrows arched, mouth open. Contempt, a subtle smirk, often just one side of the mouth raised. Each of these emotions can flash across the face in microseconds, too fast for most people to notice consciously. But with training, you can learn to catch them. Why micro-expressions matter. Words can lie. Smiles can lie. Even body posture can sometimes lie. But micro-expressions? They rarely lie. They're hardwired into our nervous system. A politician giving a speech might talk about unity, but for half a second, their face reveals contempt when mentioning an opponent. A job candidate might insist they're excited about an opportunity, but a quick flash of fear suggests self-doubt. When you can recognize these flashes, you gain a window into the truth that words alone will never show you. The challenge of speed. Here's the difficulty. Micro-expressions happen incredibly fast. Most people miss them completely. But the good news is, you can train your eyes. With practice, your brain begins to recognize these emotional leaks automatically. Think of it like driving a car. At first, you had to consciously think about mirrors, pedals, signals, and turns. But over time, it became instinctive. Spotting micro-expressions works the same way. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Stories of emotional leaks. Let me share an example. A friend once told me about an important business negotiation. The client across the table said, "We're very comfortable with this arrangement." But in that exact moment, the negotiator caught a flash of fear. The eyes widened, the lips pulled back briefly. That tiny leak told the truth. They weren't comfortable at all. Armed with that insight, my friend adjusted his strategy, addressed hidden concerns, and ultimately saved the deal. Without noticing the micro-expression, he might have walked away assuming everything was fine, only to face rejection later. Another story comes from law enforcement. During an interrogation, a suspect insisted they had no anger toward the victim. But when asked directly about the victim, a micro-expression of rage flickered across their face. That brief leak of emotion guided investigators to dig deeper, uncovering motives that words alone never would have revealed. How to practice? Here's your challenge. Over the next week, start watching faces more carefully. When someone responds to a question, look for quick flashes of emotion before their mask returns. It helps to slow down video recordings, political debates, interviews, even reality shows. Rewatch key moments and notice the brief expressions that contradict the spoken words. At first, you'll catch just a few, but as your eye sharpens, you'll start to notice them in real time. Pause and reflect. How much more confidence would you feel if you could reliably detect what people really feel beneath the surface? Micro-expressions in everyday life. This isn't just for high-stakes interrogations. Micro-expressions appear everywhere. In job interviews, they reveal candidates' true confidence. In dating, they show real attraction or hidden discomfort. In business, they uncover whether clients trust you or not. Think about a child who insists, "I didn't eat the cookie." Their words are firm, but for half a second guilt flashes across their face. You've seen it before. You just didn't know what to call it. A word of caution. Now, a warning. Don't jump to conclusions too quickly. Micro-expressions reveal emotion, not intention. Just because someone flashes fear doesn't mean they're guilty of something. They may simply be nervous about being judged. Just because you see contempt doesn't mean they dislike you. It could be directed at something else in the moment. The secret is context. Always pair micro-expressions with other signals: the feet, the posture, the tone of voice. Together, they tell the full story. The gift of empathy. Here's the deeper truth. Learning to read micro-expressions isn't just about spotting lies. It's about empathy. When you notice the sadness someone tries to hide, you can comfort them. When you notice fear, you can reassure them. When you notice joy, you can celebrate it. This skill doesn't just make you a sharper observer, it makes you a better human being. You become someone who listens with more than ears, someone who truly sees people, and when people feel seen, they trust you more deeply. Your silent superpower. So, here's your practice moving forward. Slow down conversations in your mind. Notice quick facial changes. Pair what you see with body cues, hands, feet, posture. Stay curious, not judgmental. Instead of thinking, "They're lying," think, "That's interesting. What caused that flash of emotion?" Do this consistently, and you'll develop what feels like a superpower. You'll see beneath the surface, past the rehearsed words and practiced smiles, into the raw human truth. And remember, others will feel it too. When you read people better, you respond better. You become the kind of person others feel safe with. That's influence at its highest level. So as we move into the next chapter, remember this: the face leaks what the heart feels, no matter how hard someone tries to hide it. Learn to see it, and the world will never look the same again. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget, share your insights in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. We're about to explore the language of the hands, and trust me, they speak louder than you think. Chapter 5. Hands that speak volumes. Think for a moment about your own hands. They're rarely still. You use them to emphasize words, to comfort yourself, to greet others, or to shield yourself when you feel vulnerable. They wave, point, fidget, and fold. And whether you realize it or not, your hands are speaking louder than you might imagine. In fact, research shows that our hands are among the most revealing parts of our body language. While the face is the stage for fleeting micro-expressions, and the feet betray our deepest impulses, the hands constantly broadcast messages about our confidence, our openness, and even our honesty. Pause and ask yourself, when you meet someone new, what's the first thing you do? You shake hands. That ancient ritual alone speaks volumes about trust, respect, and equality. Isn't it fascinating that before we exchange words, our hands are already doing the talking? The evolutionary role of hands. From the earliest days of humanity, hands have been tools of both survival and connection. Open hands meant peace. Empty palms signaled you carried no weapon, that you came in friendship. Closed fists, however, warned of aggression. To this day, those primal associations remain. An open hand still suggests honesty, while a clenched fist still signals tension or anger. That's why so many powerful leaders emphasize their points with open-palmed gestures. It reassures listeners. It projects transparency. It's the body's way of saying, "I have nothing to hide." The handshake. A ritual of trust. The handshake is one of the oldest forms of nonverbal communication. Anthropologists believe it originated as a way to show you weren't holding a weapon. Today, it still serves as a trust ritual. But not all handshakes are equal. A limp handshake often conveys weakness or insecurity. A crushing grip can feel aggressive, as though the person is trying to dominate you. The ideal handshake is firm, warm, and accompanied by eye contact. It communicates balanced strength without aggression, confidence without arrogance. Have you ever had someone shake your hand with both of theirs, sandwiching yours in the middle? That can signal warmth, but sometimes it also signals an attempt to control. Context matters. The key is to notice how their handshake fits with the rest of their behavior. Gestures that reveal truth. Hands are storytellers. People who gesture openly as they speak are often perceived as more confident and engaging. Their movements bring words to life. But gestures aren't just decorative. They often reveal truth beneath the surface. For instance, when someone touches their face, rubs the back of their neck, or plays with jewelry while speaking, it can signal nervousness. These are called pacifying behaviors, little self-soothing gestures the body uses to calm itself under stress. Another powerful gesture is steepling, when someone brings their fingertips together to form a triangle. This gesture often appears in confident individuals, particularly in leadership settings. It projects authority and self-assurance. But when paired with arrogance, it can come across as smug. Hands as emotional leaks. Like the feet, hands often betray hidden emotions. A person may appear calm, but their fingers tap restlessly on the table. Someone might insist they're fine, yet their hands ring together nervously. These leaks are valuable clues, especially when the words don't match the movements. I once observed a sales presentation where the speaker kept emphasizing how confident the company was about their product. But the whole time, he was rubbing his palms together and fiddling with his pen. The words said confidence. The hands said anxiety. Guess which message the audience trusted more? Cultural nuances of hands. It's important to remember that not all hand gestures are universal. A thumbs up in one culture means good job, while in another, it may be offensive. A beckoning gesture in the United States may signal friendliness, but in parts of Asia, it can be considered rude. Still, some hand signals are nearly universal. A clenched fist shows anger. Hands raised, palms out, show surrender or a request for peace. When in doubt, focus less on symbolic gestures and more on emotional cues like tension, openness, or restlessness. Controlling your own hands. Reading hands is powerful, but so is mastering your own. Think about the last time you gave a presentation. Were your hands stuffed in your pockets, hidden, or crossed tightly in front of you? If so, you might have looked closed off, even if your words were open. Now, picture yourself speaking with hands visible, palms occasionally open, gestures flowing naturally with your words. That's the image of someone confident and trustworthy. People believe not just what they hear, but what they see. So here's a practical exercise. The next time you're speaking in public or even in a meeting, consciously keep your hands visible. Use them to underline your points, but avoid over-exaggeration. When your hands align with your words, people are far more likely to trust you. The danger of over-gesturing. Of course, too much movement can backfire. Wild, erratic hand gestures can make you seem anxious or out of control. The key is balance. Controlled, purposeful gestures amplify your words. Nervous, repetitive movements undermine them. Have you ever watched someone tapping their fingers, clicking a pen, or drumming on the table during a conversation? Those small gestures often reveal impatience or anxiety, even when the person claims to be calm. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The hand as a tool of influence. One of the most fascinating uses of hands is how they influence others. A leader who reaches out with an open palm creates connection. A negotiator who pauses and raises a calming hand can diffuse tension. Even parents instinctively know this when they place a gentle hand on a child's shoulder to reassure them. Hands are persuasive tools, not through force, but through subtle, silent influence. When used consciously, they can make your words resonate more deeply. Reflection and challenge. Pause for a moment and reflect. How often do you notice hands when you're speaking with others? Are you more focused on faces, missing the story being told right beneath them? And what about your own hands? What signals might you be sending unconsciously? Here's your challenge for the coming days. Observe hands in every interaction. Notice the handshakes, the fidgeting, the openness, or the tension. Then experiment with your own. Try speaking with hands visible and relaxed. Notice how others respond differently. Bringing it all together. The face may show fleeting emotion, the feet may reveal intent, but the hands are where energy flows. They show confidence, anxiety, honesty, or deceit. They amplify words or undermine them. They build trust or erode it. Once you learn to read hands, conversations become richer. Negotiations become clearer. Relationships become deeper. Because in the end, the hands never stop speaking. They're simply waiting for you to listen. So keep watching, keep learning, and keep practicing. And as we move into the next chapter, we'll explore perhaps the most iconic part of body language, the eyes. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, and soon you'll see why. If this chapter resonated with you, don't forget to leave your reflections in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more. Each chapter is a stepping stone to mastering the hidden language of human behavior. And we're just getting started. Chapter 6. The Eyes, Windows, and Shields. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. It's a phrase we've all heard, and for good reason. The eyes reveal more than we often realize. A single glance can communicate warmth, attraction, hostility, fear, or dishonesty. But the eyes are more than just windows. They are also shields. They can invite connection or create distance. They can welcome you in or shut you out. Pause and think about the last time someone avoided your gaze. Did you feel uneasy, maybe even suspicious? Now, think of a time when someone looked directly into your eyes with sincerity. Did you feel a sense of trust? The eyes shape our emotional responses, often before a single word is spoken. Why the eyes matter so much. From birth, humans are wired to read eyes. Infants, before they can speak, lock onto their caregiver's gaze. It's primal. It's survival. Over time, that instinct becomes a crucial tool for communication. Unlike other body parts, the eyes are unique because they can both reveal and conceal. They reveal emotions through pupil dilation, blinking, and gaze direction. But they also conceal through avoidance, squinting, or a forced stare. Learning to read this balance between revelation and concealment is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Eye contact, the balance of power. Eye contact is perhaps the most powerful nonverbal tool we have. Too little, and we seem insecure, evasive, or untrustworthy. Too much, and we come across as aggressive, even intimidating. The magic lies in balance. In most cultures, holding eye contact about 60–70% of the time during a conversation creates connection without crossing into discomfort. It signals confidence, openness, and respect. But here's where it gets interesting. Context matters. In some cultures, direct eye contact can be seen as disrespectful, especially between a younger person and an elder. In others, avoiding eye contact might immediately signal dishonesty. So always remember, body language must be read in cultural context. The blink rate. One of the most subtle yet telling cues is blinking. The average person blinks about 15 to 20 times per minute. But when someone is nervous, stressed, or lying, their blink rate often spikes dramatically. It's the body's way of releasing tension. On the other hand, a dramatically reduced blink rate can signal intense focus or even hostility. Have you ever felt someone's unbroken stare drilling into you? That's not just uncomfortable, it's often a signal of challenge or dominance. The pupil's secret. Another powerful clue is pupil dilation. Pupils naturally expand when we see something we like, when we're attracted, or when we're stimulated. They contract when we feel negative emotions like anger or disgust. Imagine being on a date. The other person is smiling, nodding, saying all the right things. But if their pupils stay constricted, chances are they're not truly engaged. Conversely, dilated pupils often signal genuine interest, even if the words haven't been spoken yet. Of course, lighting and substances can also affect pupil size, so don't rely on this alone. But when combined with other cues, it becomes a remarkable window into someone's inner state. The gaze and its direction. Where someone looks tells you what they value. If their gaze keeps drifting toward the door, they're probably eager to leave. If it lingers on an object, person, or document, that's where their focus lies. In conversations, gaze direction can also signal thought processes. People often look up and to the side when recalling information, or down when reflecting emotionally. Some even argue that gaze patterns can distinguish between truth-telling and fabrication, though this is more myth than science. Still, the consistency of someone's gaze patterns can tell you a lot about their comfort level. The power of a smile in the eyes. We've all seen fake smiles, the ones that stretch the lips but never touch the eyes. Genuine smiles, called Duchenne smiles, engage the muscles around the eyes. The eyes crinkle, forming crow's feet, and the warmth feels authentic. When you see a real smile, you don't just notice it, you feel it. And when you offer one yourself, people instinctively trust you more. That's why learning to recognize genuine smiles versus forced ones can transform how you interpret interactions. Shields of the eyes. But just as eyes can reveal, they can also shield. Sunglasses, lowered eyelids, or quick glances away can all serve as barriers. Sometimes people use these shields consciously to hide fatigue, disinterest, or even dishonesty. Other times, it's subconscious a defense mechanism against feeling too vulnerable. For example, in high-stakes situations, someone might deliberately avoid eye contact to protect themselves emotionally. It doesn't always mean they're lying. It might simply mean they're overwhelmed. Again, context is everything. Stories of the eyes in action. Let me share a quick story. A manager once told me about interviewing two candidates. Both spoke confidently, had strong resumes, and gave polished answers. But one candidate maintained natural, steady eye contact, blinking calmly, eyes lighting up when describing their passions. The other avoided eye contact, blinking rapidly, gaze darting often to the floor. Guess which candidate got the job? The truth is, people can sense eye signals even if they don't consciously analyze them. We feel more trust towards someone whose eyes are congruent with their words. Your own eyes as tools of influence. It's not just about reading others. It's about controlling what your eyes communicate. Do you project confidence when you speak? Do you hold just enough eye contact to build trust? Or do you glance away too often, signaling insecurity? Here's a simple exercise. The next time you're in conversation, consciously maintain eye contact for just 1 extra second after finishing your sentence. That pause communicates confidence. But don't overdo it. Too much can tip into intimidation. Also, practice smiling not just with your mouth, but with your eyes. Imagine warmth radiating outward. People notice the difference immediately. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you truly look people in the eyes when you speak with them? Do your eyes reveal warmth, or do they act as shields? And when others look at you, what do you think they see? Here's your challenge. For the next week, pay attention to eye behavior in every interaction. Notice blink rates, gaze direction, and the difference between real and fake smiles. Then, experiment with your own eye contact. Hold it just a little longer, soften it with a genuine smile, and watch how people respond. Bringing it all together, the eyes are unique among body signals. They're both windows and shields, revealing inner emotions while also protecting vulnerability. They hold the power to build trust, spark connection, and even influence outcomes, if you know how to read them. So remember, when someone says one thing but their eyes tell another, believe the eyes. They're almost always closer to the truth. And as we move forward, we'll explore another critical aspect of nonverbal communication: the space around us. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how distance, proximity, and territory silently shape every interaction you have. If this chapter opened your eyes, pun intended, be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you won't miss what's next. Chapter 7. Space, Distance, and Territory. Picture this. You're standing in line at a coffee shop. Suddenly, Someone steps too close behind you. They haven't touched you. They haven't spoken, but you feel it. A wave of discomfort rises. Why? Because they've invaded your personal space. Space is silent, yet it speaks volumes. Just like words and gestures, the distance between people communicates meaning. Sometimes it signals intimacy. Other times, it signals power, dominance, or disrespect. Understanding the language of space, what psychologists call proxemics, is essential if you want to truly master body language. Pause and reflect. Have you ever backed away from someone without even realizing why? That was your subconscious protecting your territory. The zones of personal space researchers generally agree on 4 basic zones of personal space. Intimate zone, 0-18 inches, reserved for lovers, family, and closest friends. If someone outside this circle enters without permission, it feels intrusive, even threatening. Personal zone, 1.54 feet. The comfortable distance for conversations with friends, colleagues, or people you trust. Social zone, 4-12 feet. Typical for business interactions, formal meetings, or casual acquaintances. Public zone, 12 feet and beyond. The space used for public speaking, lectures, or addressing groups. Now remember, these zones vary across cultures. In some countries, standing close is normal, even expected. In others, it's considered rude. That's why cultural awareness is so important when interpreting distance. Space as a power signal territory isn't just about physical distance, it's also about space ownership. Have you ever noticed how a boss's office communicates authority? The big desk, the corner view, the wide spacing of furniture. It all says, "This is my domain." Even in casual settings, people claim space to signal dominance. A person might spread out their belongings on a table, drape an arm across the back of a chair, or stand with feet planted wide. These are territorial markers, subtle ways of saying, "This space is mine." Conversely, someone who sits on the edge of a seat, arms tucked in, and belongings gathered tightly, is signaling low confidence, almost apologizing for taking up space. Ask yourself, how much space do you allow yourself to occupy? Do you shrink, or do you claim your ground? Encroachment and reactions. When someone crosses the invisible boundaries of space, the body reacts immediately. We stiffen, lean back, or shift away. Sometimes we even create artificial barriers, like crossing our arms or holding a bag in front of us. These are subconscious defenses against encroachment. Interestingly, powerful people often invade space deliberately. They step closer, lean over a desk, or sit at the head of a table. It's not just about physical distance, it's about psychological control. But here's the flip side. People who respect space often earn more trust. Knowing when to lean in and when to lean back is a subtle but powerful social skill. The comfort-discomfort test. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're in conversation, notice what happens if you take half a step closer. Does the other person lean in too, signaling comfort? Or do they pull back, signaling discomfort? This simple test reveals volumes about the relationship. Couples in love often close the gap without thinking, leaning into each other's personal zones. Strangers, however, will instinctively pull back if the distance feels too intimate. Space in negotiations. Space becomes especially powerful in negotiations. For example, seating arrangements often determine dynamics. Sitting side by side creates collaboration. Sitting across a table creates opposition. A circular arrangement feels more egalitarian, while a rectangular one reinforces hierarchy. I once observed a business meeting where the most powerful person didn't say much, but they chose the seat at the head of the table, spread their papers widely, and leaned back comfortably. Their space alone announced authority. Territory beyond people. Territory also extends to objects. Think about the classic seat saver at a cafe. Someone places their bag on a chair to claim it. Or at the office, someone consistently leaves their jacket over a chair to signal ownership. These small behaviors are territorial markers, ways of silently saying, This spot belongs to me. Even digital space follows the same logic. Have you ever noticed how people customize their office desks with photos or plants? That's not just decoration, it's territorial claim, a way of making space feel safe and personal. Cultural nuances of space. Remember, not all space rules are universal. In some Latin American and Middle Eastern cultures, people naturally stand closer when speaking. In Scandinavian or Northern European cultures, more distance is preferred. Misreading these norms can create discomfort without you realizing why. This is why cultural intelligence is vital. Always observe how locals interact before deciding what's appropriate. Your own use of space. Reading others' use of space is powerful, but so is mastering your own. How you claim or respect space affects how people perceive you. In professional settings, don't shrink into corners. Take your seat confidently. Spread your notes without overdoing it. Stand tall with feet planted firmly. These small choices project authority and calm. In personal interactions, respect intimacy zones. Don't rush into someone's space unless invited. Trust grows faster when people feel safe. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, how do you typically use space? Do you tend to shrink and give it up too easily? Or do you dominate without realizing it? How might adjusting your use of space change the way others respond to you? Here's your challenge. Over the next week, pay attention to space in every interaction. Notice how close people stand, how they arrange themselves in rooms, and how you instinctively respond. Experiment with adjusting your own distance and watch how the dynamic shifts. Bringing it all together. Space is invisible, yet it shapes every interaction. It communicates comfort, dominance, respect, or threat. It determines whether people feel safe or uneasy, connected or excluded. By learning to read and manage space, you gain control over one of the most subtle but powerful aspects of human communication. So the next time you walk into a room, don't just look at faces or hands, notice the space. Who claims it? Who gives it up? And how does that invisible dance shape the conversation? In our next chapter, we'll explore posture and presence, the way your stance and bearing broadcast confidence, insecurity, or authority before you even open your mouth. And if this chapter helped you see the invisible side of communication, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you won't miss the next lesson. Chapter 8. Posture and Presence. Before you say a single word, before you even extend your hand, people are already forming judgments about you. And those judgments, often made in the first 7 seconds, are shaped less by what you say and more by how you stand. Posture is the foundation of presence. It's the silent announcement of who you are and how you feel about yourself. Are you confident, insecure, open, defensive? All of it shows, not in your words, but in the way you carry your body. Pause and ask yourself, what's your natural posture right now? Are your shoulders slumped? Is your back curved forward over your phone or computer? Or are you upright, chest open, head lifted? That one simple choice is broadcasting a message to the world, even if you're not aware of it. Why posture matters. Humans are incredibly sensitive to posture. We instantly recognize whether someone is strong, weak, approachable, or closed off. Think of a soldier standing at attention versus a teenager slouching in their chair. The story is clear before either of them says a word. Good posture doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you feel. Studies show that standing tall, with an open chest and shoulders back, boosts confidence and even affects hormone levels. This is sometimes called the power pose effect. While some studies debate its exact impact, the practical truth remains. When you open your body, you feel and appear more confident. Closed versus open posture. Let's start with the basics. Closed posture. Arms crossed tightly, shoulders hunched, head down, legs crossed or pulled inward. This signals defensiveness, insecurity, or disengagement. Open posture. Arms relaxed, chest visible, head upright, feet planted firmly. This signals confidence, honesty, and receptiveness. The difference between closed and open posture is the difference between someone saying, "I don't trust you," and someone saying, "I'm here with you." The language of the spine. One of the clearest indicators of confidence is the spine. A straight spine, whether standing or sitting, projects strength. A curved spine, on the other hand, signals submission or fatigue. Think of the last time you saw a leader walk into a room. Did they slouch? Probably not. They stood tall, shoulders back, every inch of their body aligned. Without speaking, they commanded attention. You can do the same. Simply lifting your chest and aligning your spine changes the energy you project. Head position. Authority or submission. Your head tells its own story. Tilted downward, it can signal insecurity or deference. Tilted upward too much, it risks looking arrogant. But level, aligned with your spine, it signals balance and confidence. Even small adjustments matter. A head slightly tilted while listening communicates interest and empathy. A head held rigidly forward can come across as combative. The key is awareness. How you angle your head shapes how people feel about your presence. Shoulders. The weight of emotion. Shoulders carry emotion, sometimes literally. Raised shoulders often signal tension or fear, as if the body is bracing for impact. Drooping shoulders signal defeat or sadness. Relaxed, squared shoulders, however, project calm assurance. If you want to shift how you feel instantly, roll your shoulders back and down. It's simple, but it transforms your posture from closed to open, from defensive to confident. Presence beyond posture. Now here's the deeper truth. Posture is just the beginning. Presence is what happens when posture meets intention. It's the aura you project, the feeling you leave behind in a room. Presence comes from alignment. Your body language matching your words, your energy matching your values. People with strong presence don't just stand tall, they radiate authenticity. You can feel it in the way they occupy space, the calm in their movements, the steadiness of their gaze. The cost of poor posture. Poor posture isn't just about appearance. It has real-world consequences. Slouching too often makes you appear less competent, less engaged, even less trustworthy. In professional settings, this can mean missed opportunities. I once worked with a young professional who struggled in presentations. His content was strong, but he slouched at the podium, shoulders caved in, head bowed toward his notes. Audiences read his posture as insecurity. Once he learned to stand tall, open his chest, and look up, everything changed. His words carried more weight, not because they changed, but because he changed. Posture in high-stakes situations. Posture becomes especially critical in interviews, negotiations, or public speaking. Leaning too far forward can look aggressive. Leaning too far back can seem disengaged. The sweet spot is upright and slightly forward engaged, but not intrusive. Even when seated, posture matters. Sitting with both feet planted, back straight, and hands visible communicates confidence and honesty. Slouching with arms folded, on the other hand, signals disinterest or defensiveness. Practical exercises. Here's how you can strengthen your posture and presence starting today. Wall test. Stand with your back against a wall. Align your heels, hips, shoulders, and head. This trains your body to recognize what upright posture feels like. Breath and posture. Take deep breaths while standing tall. Notice how open posture allows deeper breathing, and how deeper breathing reinforces calm presence. Presence ritual. Before entering a meeting or important conversation, pause. Roll your shoulders back, plant your feet, lift your head, and smile. Enter with intention. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, how does your posture usually speak for you? Does it say, "I'm confident, open, and engaged"? Or does it whisper, "I'd rather be invisible"? Your challenge this week is simple. Practice entering every room with strong posture. shoulders back, chest open, head high. Notice how people respond differently when you walk in with presence. Bringing it all together. Posture is the framework of body language. It determines how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Presence is the energy you project, built on that framework. Together, they shape the silent story you tell every day. So remember this. You don't need to speak loudly to command attention. Sometimes all it takes is standing tall, being fully present, and letting your posture do the talking. In the next chapter, we'll explore comfort versus discomfort cues. How to spot the difference between someone who's relaxed and someone who desperately wants to flee. These signals can change how you read people in an instant. If this chapter helped you stand a little taller, don't forget, leave your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. Each step we take brings us closer to mastering the silent language that shapes our lives. Chapter 9. Comfort versus discomfort cues. Imagine this. You're pitching an idea to your boss. She's smiling, nodding, and saying all the right things. On the surface, she seems engaged. But then, she shifts in her chair. Her foot begins tapping under the table, and her hands rub together nervously. Suddenly, the truth is clear. Her body isn't as comfortable as her words suggest. This is the essence of reading body language, distinguishing between comfort and discomfort. Forget Hollywood myths about crossed arms mean lying, or avoiding eye contact means guilt. The real skill lies in identifying whether someone is at ease or uneasy. Because here's the truth. People are always either moving toward comfort or away from discomfort. Once you learn to see this, you unlock one of the most reliable ways to read human behavior. Pause and ask yourself, how much of your life could improve if you could instantly tell whether someone was genuinely comfortable with you or silently pulling away? The two categories of body language. Think of body language in two simple buckets. Comfort cues, signs of relaxation, openness, and ease. Discomfort cues, signs of stress, tension, or withdrawal. This framework is simple but incredibly powerful. Instead of memorizing hundreds of gestures, you only need to ask, does this person look comfortable or uncomfortable? Comfort cues, the signals of ease. Comfort cues appear when people feel safe, engaged, or confident. They may include relaxed posture, shoulders down, body open, movements fluid. Open palms, hands visible, gestures expansive. Leaning forward, showing genuine interest in the interaction. Smiling eyes, authentic warmth that reaches the corners of the eyes. Steady breathing, calm rhythm, no shallow gasps or tightness. Feet pointed toward you, showing focus and engagement. When you see these signals, you can trust the interaction is positive. The person is comfortable and likely authentic in that moment. Discomfort cues, the signals of unease. Discomfort cues appear when people feel threatened, anxious, or disengaged. They include crossed arms or legs, creating barriers. Touching the neck or face, pacifying gestures to self-soothe. Feet pointing away, the body literally preparing to leave. Fidgeting, tapping, bouncing, or restless movements. Sudden stillness, freezing as a defensive reaction. Lip compression, pressing lips tightly to hold back words or emotion. These don't always mean lying. They simply mean discomfort. The key is noticing when these shifts happen and what might have triggered them. The power of transitions. Here's where things get interesting. It's not just the cues themselves, but the changes that matter. If someone starts out relaxed, leaning forward, smiling, and then suddenly crosses their arms and leans back, you've just spotted a transition from comfort to discomfort. That shift is gold. It often reveals the exact moment when something in the conversation hit a nerve. Law enforcement officers use this all the time. They watch for changes in posture or behavior at key moments. But you can use the same principle in everyday life, during business meetings, dates, or even family conversations. The freeze response. One of the most overlooked discomfort cues is sudden stillness. When the body freezes, it's often bracing for stress. Think of a deer caught in headlights. Humans do the same thing. For example, during a tough interview question, a candidate might suddenly stop moving, hands locked in place, face stiff. That freeze can signal internal panic. Recognizing it helps you respond with empathy or strategy, depending on the context. Comfort as connection. Here's the flip side. Building comfort in others creates trust. The more comfortable someone feels around you, the more honest, open, and cooperative they'll be. Think about it. When you're with a close friend, your body relaxes. You lean in. You gesture freely. You're not protecting yourself. The same dynamic applies in professional settings. A leader who creates psychological safety sees more engagement, better collaboration, and stronger loyalty. So don't just read comfort and discomfort create comfort for others. Smile genuinely. Respect personal space. Mirror body language subtly. Show warmth through your tone and gestures. The results will speak for themselves. A story of comfort and discomfort. I once coached a young entrepreneur preparing for investor pitches. During practice, I noticed his investors leaned back, arms crossed, feet angled away. Classic discomfort cues. His words were fine, but his nervous pacing and clenched fists made them uneasy. We worked on his posture, slowed his movements, and added open gestures. In the next round of pitches, the investors leaned in, uncrossed their arms, and even mirrored his movements. Their comfort grew, and so did their willingness to invest. That's the power of reading and managing comfort cues. Practical exercise. Here's an exercise you can try immediately. For the next 3 conversations you have, forget the words. Focus only on whether the other person looks comfortable or uncomfortable. Watch their shoulders, their breathing, their feet. Then, see if you can notice the exact moment their comfort level shifts. This simple practice will sharpen your awareness dramatically. Pause and reflect. How would your relationships change if you could instantly spot when people feel at ease with you and when they don't? Your own signals. Don't forget, your body broadcasts comfort or discomfort too. When you sit hunched, arms crossed, eyes down, you radiate unease. When you stand tall, open your chest, and breathe calmly, you radiate confidence. Want to influence others more effectively? Master your own comfort cues. Project calm and openness, and others will mirror you. Bringing it all together. At its core, body language isn't about memorizing endless signals. It's about tuning into one fundamental truth. People seek comfort and avoid discomfort. If you can spot the difference and respond wisely, you'll read people more accurately than 99% of the population. So remember, when someone shifts, stiffens, or withdraws, don't just assume dishonesty. See it as information. Ask yourself, what just changed? What did I say or do that triggered that response? The answers will guide you to deeper understanding. In the next chapter, we'll build on this foundation by looking at clusters of cues, why one signal alone isn't enough, and how patterns tell the real story. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget, share your reflections in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you'll never miss the next lesson. Chapter 10. The Power of Clusters. Have you ever jumped to a conclusion based on one gesture? Maybe you saw someone cross their arms and thought, they're defensive. Or you noticed someone avoiding eye contact and assumed, they're lying. Here's the truth. Single cues are unreliable. One gesture alone rarely tells the full story. The real power comes from clusters' multiple signals working together in harmony. When body language aligns in patterns, that's when you can read people with accuracy. Pause and reflect. How often have you misread someone because you fixated on just one gesture? Why one cue isn't enough? Let's clear up a common myth. Crossed arms don't always mean defensiveness. Sometimes it just means the person is cold. Avoiding eye contact doesn't always mean guilt. It might mean cultural respect or simply shyness. That's why professionals, FBI agents, negotiators, skilled communicators never rely on single cues. They look for clusters, groups of signals that all point to the same conclusion. Think of it like evidence in a trial. One piece of evidence might be circumstantial, but when multiple pieces align, the case becomes clear. The 3Q rule. A practical guideline is the 3Q rule. Before drawing a conclusion about someone's state of mind, look for at least 3 consistent signals that point in the same direction. For example, a person says they're confident, but you notice their hands wringing, their foot bouncing, and their lips compressed. 3 cues of anxiety. Now you have a stronger case. Or someone says they're happy to see you while their eyes crinkle in a genuine smile, their body leans toward you, and their feet point directly at you. 3 cues of genuine comfort. 1 cue can be random. 3 cues create a pattern. Clusters over time. Clusters don't just appear in one moment. They can build over time. Someone might start relaxed, then gradually add signals of discomfort, shifting in their seat, crossing arms, glancing at the clock. Individually, those might not mean much, but together they paint a clear picture. This person wants the conversation to end. This is why patience matters. Don't rush to judgment. Watch the flow of signals across minutes, not just seconds. Contradictions. Within clusters. Sometimes, body language sends mixed messages. A person may smile while their body leans away, or they may nod yes while shaking their head no. These contradictions are important. They reveal inner conflict. When words and body language clash, always trust the body. Our mouths can lie, but our bodies struggle to fake consistency. I once saw this in a workplace mediation. An employee insisted, "I'm fine with the decision," but at the same moment, her arms folded tightly, her lips pressed thin, and her foot tapped furiously. The cluster screamed frustration even as her words denied it. Comfort versus discomfort. Clusters. In Chapter 9, we talked about comfort versus discomfort. Here's where clusters become vital. A cluster of comfort might include relaxed shoulders, open palms, leaning forward, steady breathing, and feet pointing towards you. A cluster of discomfort might include crossed arms, shifting posture, rapid blinking, compressed lips, and feet angled toward the exit. Each signal alone might be explainable, but together, they confirm the emotional state with much higher accuracy. Clusters in negotiation. Let me share a quick story. A sales team once presented a pitch to potential clients. The clients smiled politely, nodded occasionally, and asked a few questions. On the surface, it seemed promising. But one team member noticed a troubling cluster. The client's arms folded, their legs crossed away, and their eyes glanced frequently at the door. Despite the polite words, the cluster revealed disinterest. The sales team wisely shifted strategy, addressing unspoken concerns. Without that awareness, they might have walked away assuming everything was fine, only to lose the deal later. Clusters in relationships. Clusters aren't just for business, they matter in personal life too. Imagine your partner says, "I'm not upset," but at the same time, their jaw tightens, their arms cross, and their voice grows clipped. That cluster tells you more than the words ever could. Or consider dating. Someone may say, "I had a great time," but their body leans away, their smile doesn't reach their eyes, and their arms stay folded. That cluster suggests politeness, not genuine enthusiasm. Reading clusters protects you from false assumptions and reveals the truth beneath the surface. How to train your eye for clusters. Here's a practical exercise. Watch a conversation on TV, in public, or even at work. Write down 3 to 5 signals you notice. Ask yourself, do they point toward comfort or discomfort? Do they align or do they contradict? With practice, your brain starts connecting the dots automatically. Soon, you'll see clusters in real time, like subtitles running beneath every interaction. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, in your daily life, how often do you pay attention to more than one cue at a time? Do you rush to judgment, or do you wait for patterns to emerge? Your challenge this week. In every conversation, resist the urge to interpret single gestures. Instead, train yourself to spot clusters. Look for at least 3 consistent signals before forming conclusions. Bringing it all together. Clusters are the heartbeat of accurate body language reading. One signal is a whisper. A cluster is a chorus. When multiple cues align, the message becomes undeniable. So remember, never judge too quickly. Let the body tell its story through patterns. Trust the clusters, they rarely lie. In the next chapter, we'll take this further by exploring one of the most sought-after skills, detecting deception. You'll learn why spotting lies isn't about magic tricks, but about noticing the subtle signals that cluster together when truth is being concealed. And if this chapter gave you a new lens for observation, don't forget to leave your reflections in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more. The journey gets even more fascinating from here. Chapter 11. Detecting Lies Without Asking a Question. Imagine this. You're in a conversation, and everything sounds right. The words flow smoothly, the tone feels steady, but something deep inside you whispers, something's off. You can't explain why, you just sense it. That's your subconscious noticing signals of deception. The good news? You don't need to rely on gut feelings alone. By learning to recognize the body's subtle giveaways, you can sharpen that instinct into a skill. Detecting lies isn't about mind reading. It's about noticing the signals that leak out when words and emotions don't align. Pause and reflect. How different would your life be if you could reliably sense when someone wasn't telling you the full truth? Why people lie. Before we dive into the signals, let's remember this. Not all lies are malicious. People lie for many reasons. Self-protection, politeness, avoiding conflict, or sparing someone's feelings. Still, being able to spot deception gives you clarity so you can respond wisely. The myth of one. Tell movies love to dramatize a single tell, like someone scratching their nose or avoiding eye contact. In reality, no single gesture proves deception. The real skill is noticing clusters of discomfort cues that appear at the exact moment a sensitive topic arises. For example, if someone crosses their arms, looks away, and taps their foot all right after being asked about a missing report, that cluster is worth paying attention to. The timing of cues. Timing is everything. Deception signals often appear right after a critical question. If someone is calm, then suddenly fidgets, shifts posture, or touches their face right after answering, that change in behavior is a red flag. Think of it like a movie cut. You were watching one scene, and suddenly the energy shifts. That transition often reveals more than the words themselves. Common signs of deception. Here are some of the most frequent nonverbal cues that, in clusters, may indicate dishonesty. Lip compression, pressing lips tightly together, as if holding something back. Excessive blinking, stress response kicking in. Covering the mouth, even briefly, as if hiding words. Neck touching or rubbing, a self-soothing pacifier under stress. Sudden stillness, freezing the body to avoid leaking emotion. Feet pointing away, signaling the desire to escape. Mismatch of words and body, saying yes while shaking the head no, or smiling without the eyes. Again, none of these alone proves a lie. But when several appear together, especially after a direct question, the probability increases. Verbal clues that accompany the body. Deception doesn't live in body language alone. Words also give hints. People who are lying may use more formal or distancing language, that person instead of a name. Add unnecessary detail, over-explaining to sound convincing. Repeat phrases, buying time to think. Delay responses slightly before answering. When verbal and nonverbal cues contradict, trust the nonverbal. The body leaks truth even when the mouth tries to cover it. The freeze, flight, or fight response. Remember the primal survival system? Under stress, the body chooses freeze, flight, or fight. Liars often display subtle versions of these. Freeze, suddenly still, body rigid, voice flat. Flight, leaning back, feet toward the exit, body pulling away. Fight, defensive gestures, pointing fingers, sudden aggression. These reactions aren't proof of lies, but they signal stress around the topic. A story of hidden truth. I once heard about an employee questioned over missing funds. He calmly insisted, "I don't know what happened." His words were smooth, but right after saying it, he compressed his lips, touched his neck, and shifted his feet toward the door. That cluster told the real story. He was deeply uncomfortable with the denial. Eventually, the truth came out. He had been hiding information. The body had whispered the truth long before the confession. The importance of baseline. One of the biggest mistakes in lie detection is ignoring someone's baseline. Some people naturally blink a lot. Others habitually cross their arms. To detect deception, you must first know what's normal for them. Then, watch for changes when sensitive topics arise. Baseline is like the background music of a person. Only when the rhythm changes should you pay attention. Using this skill responsibly. Now, a word of caution. Detecting deception is powerful, but it comes with responsibility. Don't use it to play detective in every conversation. Don't accuse people based on a cluster of cues. Instead, treat what you see as data. A signal that something might be wrong, worth exploring further with empathy and curiosity. For example, instead of saying, "You're lying," you might think, "This person seems uncomfortable." Why? Then ask gentle follow-up questions. Sometimes you'll discover dishonesty. Other times you'll discover fear, stress, or insecurity that has nothing to do with lying. Practical exercise. Here's your practice for this week. Watch interviews on TV politicians, celebrities, or athletes. Pay attention to their body language when tough questions are asked. Note any shifts in behavior crossing arms, lip compressions, fidgeting, or sudden stillness. Ask yourself, are these signs of discomfort, and do they align with the topic being discussed? This is a safe, low-stakes way to sharpen your eye without putting pressure on your personal relationships. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, how would your decisions change if you could see through polite words and notice when someone's body disagreed? How would it affect your business, your relationships, or your trust in others? Your challenge is simple. For the next few conversations, watch for clusters of discomfort right after key questions or statements. Don't judge, just observe. The more you notice, the clearer the truth will become. Bringing it all together. Detecting lies isn't about magic tricks or calling people out. It's about noticing when body and words don't align, when discomfort clusters appear in the cracks of conversation. With practice, you'll begin to sense dishonesty not as a hunch, but as an observable pattern. And that clarity gives you power, the power to respond wisely, to protect yourself, and to build trust with those who are genuine. In the next chapter, we'll explore how you can flip this knowledge around, using body language intentionally to influence and persuade others. Because once you know how to read people, the next step is learning how to guide their perception of you. And if this chapter opened your eyes, don't forget to leave your reflections in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more. We're only getting sharper as we go. Chapter 12. Influence and Persuasion. Through Nonverbal Awareness. By now you've learned how to read people, their feet, their hands, their eyes, their posture, even their subtle emotional leaks. But there's another side to this equation, how you use your own body language to influence others. Because here's the truth. Just as you're constantly reading people, they're constantly reading you. Every movement you make, every gesture, every glance, every choice of space broadcasts a message. And if you want to be persuasive, trustworthy, and influential, You must learn to control that message. Pause and reflect. How much more powerful would you be if your presence alone inspired trust before you even spoke a word? The science of nonverbal influence. Research shows that people form impressions of you in seconds, not minutes, seconds. And those impressions are based far more on nonverbal cues than on words. When your body language aligns with your message, people believe you. When it contradicts, doubt creeps in, even if your words are perfect. That's why mastering your nonverbal presence is the key to persuasion. The foundation: warmth and competence. Psychologists tell us that we judge others primarily on two dimensions: warmth and competence. Warmth. Do I feel safe with this person? Do they care about me? Competence. Can this person deliver? Do they know what they're doing? If you project warmth without competence, people may like you but not trust your ability. If you project competence without warmth, people may respect you but not want to follow you. True influence requires both. And the beautiful part? Both warmth and competence can be conveyed through body language. How to signal warmth. Warmth is communicated through openness and approachability. Here's how. Genuine smiles, the kind that reach the eyes. Open gestures, palms visible, arms relaxed. Leaning slightly forward, showing interest in the other person. Nods of affirmation. Encouraging without interrupting. Soft eye contact, steady but not overpowering. These signals say, I see you, I hear you, you matter. And that opens the door to influence. How to signal competence. Competence is communicated through control and presence. Here's how. Upright posture, shoulders back, spine straight. Controlled gestures, purposeful, not erratic. Even pacing, moving and speaking with calm steadiness. Taking up space, without shrinking or fidgeting. Clear voice projection, supported by strong breath and posture. These signals say, I am capable, I know what I'm doing, and that earns respect. Mirroring, building connection. Subtly. One of the most effective persuasion techniques is mirroring, subtly reflecting the other person's body language. When done naturally, it builds unconscious rapport. If someone leans forward, you lean forward slightly. If they cross their legs, you might cross yours after a short delay. The brain perceives similarity as safety. But beware, forced or exaggerated mirroring feels manipulative. The key is subtle, delayed reflection, not mimicry. The power of pauses and stillness. Influence isn't only about movement. Stillness can be just as powerful. When you stand tall and pause before speaking, you command attention. Silence, used wisely, creates presence. Think of great leaders and speakers. They don't rush. They use pauses to let words land. Their stillness amplifies their authority. You can do the same, whether in a boardroom, a negotiation, or even a personal conversation. Influence in high-stakes situations. Let's apply this to some real-world scenarios. Job interviews. Enter with upright posture, steady eye contact, and a genuine smile. Sit with open hands visible. Lean forward when answering questions. These cues project both warmth and competence. Negotiations. Use calm, deliberate gestures. Avoid nervous fidgeting. Lean back slightly when listening to signal control. Lean forward when making key points. This balance keeps you authoritative without seeming aggressive. Presentations. Own the space. Plant your feet firmly. Gesture with purpose. And scan the audience with warm eye contact. Don't hide behind notes. Use your body to embody confidence. A story of persuasion in action. I once worked with a leader preparing for a critical investor meeting. His content was strong, but his delivery lacked presence. He paced nervously, avoided eye contact, and fidgeted with his hands. Investors felt uneasy. We adjusted his body language, shoulders back, controlled pacing, open gestures, steady eye contact. In the next meeting, he radiated calm authority. The investors leaned in, nodded, and ultimately funded his vision. Same words, different body, and a completely different result. That's the power of nonverbal influence. Your daily influence ritual. Here's a simple ritual you can practice daily. Posture reset. Stand tall, shoulders back, chest open. Breath control. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Calm your nervous system. Smile with eyes. Practice a genuine eye-crinkling smile. Gesture warmly. Keep hands visible and open. Enter with intention. Before entering any room, decide, do I want to project warmth, competence, or both? This ritual takes less than a minute, but it can transform how people perceive you. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, in your daily life, do you project warmth, competence, or both? Do people see you as approachable, capable, or ideally both at once? Your challenge this week. Before every important interaction, set your nonverbal intention. Decide how you want to be perceived, then align your body language accordingly. Bringing it all together. Influence isn't about manipulation. It's about aligning your body, your words, and your intentions so others feel your authenticity. When your body language radiates both warmth and competence, people lean in. They listen, they trust. And in the end, that's what true persuasion is. Not forcing people, but guiding them toward trust and belief in you. In the next chapter, we'll expand our lens globally, exploring cross-cultural signals. Because body language may be universal in some ways, but culture shapes meaning in others. And if this chapter gave you tools you can start using today, don't forget, leave your reflections in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe so you'll be ready for the next lesson in mastering the hidden language of human behavior. Chapter 13, Cross-Cultural Signals. You've probably heard the saying, body language is universal. And in some ways, that's true. A smile communicates happiness in nearly every culture. Fear widens the eyes, anger tightens the jaw. These primal expressions transcend borders. But here's the catch. Not all body language is universal. Many gestures, distances, and postures are shaped by culture. What feels natural and respectful in one part of the world might seem rude or confusing in another. Pause and reflect. Have you ever traveled abroad and felt out of sync? Not because of words, but because of unspoken customs? That was body language colliding with culture. The universal core. Let's start with what is universal. Research shows that the 7 primary facial expressions, happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, and contempt, are recognized across cultures. Whether you're in New York, Nairobi, or New Delhi, people can read these emotions. Similarly, certain survival-based signals like freezing under threat, flaring nostrils when angry, or cringing when disgusted appear almost everywhere. These are hardwired into our biology. But beyond these basics, cultural layers shape how we use and interpret body language. Personal space around the world. In Chapter 7, we explored the zones of personal space. But those zones shift dramatically depending on where you are. In Latin America, the Middle East, and parts of Southern Europe, close physical distance is common. People stand face to face, sometimes even touching during conversation. To step back may seem cold or unfriendly. In Northern Europe, North America, and parts of Asia, more distance is expected. Standing too close feels intrusive, even aggressive. The lesson? What feels like respect in one culture may feel like rejection in another. Eye contact. Across cultures. Eye contact is another powerful example. In the United States and much of Western Europe, steady eye contact signals confidence and honesty. Avoiding it may raise suspicion. In Japan, Korea, and some African cultures, prolonged eye contact can be seen as disrespectful, especially from a younger person toward an elder. In the Middle East, strong eye contact between men is common, but between men and women, it may be restricted by social norms. So if you assume your rules about eye contact apply everywhere, you risk serious miscommunication. Gestures that shift. meaning hand gestures are perhaps the most famous cultural traps. The thumbs-up gesture means good in the US, but can be offensive in parts of the Middle East. The OK sign, thumb and finger circle, means all is well in the US, but in Brazil, it's vulgar. In Japan, it signals money. A beckoning gesture with the index finger means come here in the US, but in the Philippines, it's used only for dogs. Using it on a person is highly insulting. Same hand, same movement, completely different meanings depending on culture. Posture and power. Even posture carries cultural nuance. In the US, crossing your legs while seated is casual and comfortable. But in parts of Asia and the Middle East, showing the soles of your feet is disrespectful. Similarly, bowing in Japan isn't just politeness. It's layered with meaning based on depth, duration, and context. A shallow bow may signal casual respect, while a deep bow communicates profound apology or reverence. Touch as communication. Touch is another area where cultures diverge. In Mediterranean and Latin cultures, touch during conversation is frequent: a hand on the arm, a pat on the back. In Northern Europe and East Asia, touch is reserved for close relationships. Public displays of affection are less common. Knowing these differences can mean the difference between building rapport and unintentionally offending someone. A story of cross-cultural missteps. A business executive once shared with me how he lost an international deal not because of price or product, but because of body language. In his American style, he leaned in close and maintained strong eye contact to show confidence. But his Japanese counterpart found it aggressive and disrespectful. The meeting ended politely, but without a deal. Later, he learned that if he had mirrored his counterpart's more subtle gestures and respected greater personal space, the outcome might have been different. How to navigate cross-cultural body language. So how can you avoid these pitfalls? Here are 3 practical principles. Observe before acting. When entering a new culture, watch how locals interact before jumping in. Notice distance, gestures, and touch. Mirror subtly. If unsure, gently reflect the body language of the person you're with. It shows respect and builds rapport. Err on the side of respect. When in doubt, choose restraint. Give more space, use fewer gestures, and let the other person set the tone. Building global empathy. At its best, cross-cultural body language isn't about memorizing endless rules. It's about empathy. It's about realizing that your way isn't the only way, and being curious about how others communicate nonverbally. This curiosity not only prevents offense, it deepens connection. It shows humility and respect, which are the ultimate forms of influence. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, have you ever misread or been misread across cultures? What assumptions did you make? And how could awareness of body language have changed that outcome? Your challenge is this. The next time you interact with someone from a different culture, pay close attention to their body language first. Notice their spacing, their eye contact, their gestures. Then adapt gently, showing respect for their norms. Bringing it all together. Body language is both universal and cultural. The universals connect us as humans. The cultural differences remind us to stay humble, to observe before judging, and to adapt before assuming. Mastering cross-cultural signals doesn't just make you a better communicator, it makes you a bridge builder. And in our interconnected world, that's one of the most valuable skills you can have. In the next chapter, we'll return to the individual level, exploring the body language of success and how you can use posture, gestures, and presence to project confidence and authority in any setting. And if this chapter expanded your worldview, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe. Each lesson builds on the last, and the journey only gets richer from here. Chapter 14. The Body Language of Success. When you picture someone successful, what comes to mind? A sharp suit? A luxury car? Maybe a big office on the top floor? While those symbols can reflect success, the truest markers of confidence and achievement are often more subtle. They're carried not in possessions, but in posture, gestures, and presence. Body language is the costume of success. It's the silent uniform that tells the world, this person is capable. This person is worth listening to. And the beautiful part? You don't need millions in the bank to project it. You can learn to embody success long before you achieve it. Pause and reflect. How do you currently show up in a room? Do you project confidence? Or do you unintentionally signal self-doubt? Presence before words. The most successful people know this truth. Influence begins before you speak. When you walk into a meeting, others are already reading you, your posture, your stride, your facial expression. Think of leaders you admire. They don't shuffle into a room staring at the floor. They walk with intention. They stand tall, shoulders open, eyes forward. They exude calm assurance. That's presence, and it sets the stage for everything else. Posture as a success signal. We touched on posture in Chapter 8, but let's go deeper here. Success posture is upright, balanced, and open. It communicates three things at once: strength, stability, and self-assurance. Strength: a straight spine, broad shoulders, steady stance. Stability: feet planted firmly, no nervous shifting. Self-assurance: chest open, breathing deep, and calm. Contrast that with slouched posture, shoulders hunched, gaze down, body collapsed inward. That posture whispers insecurity, and people respond accordingly. The simple act of standing tall can shift how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Gestures of authority. Successful body language includes purposeful gestures. Leaders don't flail wildly or fidget nervously. They gesture in ways that amplify their words without distracting from them. Think of the steeple gesture, fingertips lightly touching, palms apart. It projects confidence and authority. Or open-palmed gestures which communicate honesty and transparency. The key is control. Too little movement makes you look stiff. Too much makes you look scattered. The sweet spot is fluid, measured gestures that align with your message. The face of success. Facial expressions matter too. Successful people don't wear forced smiles or masks of tension. Instead, they cultivate a calm, approachable expression. A genuine smile, the kind that reaches the eyes, invites trust. A neutral, steady face during tense moments signals composure. Raised brows or tilted head while listening signals curiosity. Each of these expressions contributes to an aura of competence and warmth. Owning space without dominating. One hallmark of success is comfort with space. Confident people don't shrink into corners. They don't huddle over their phones at social events. They take up space naturally, not aggressively. This might mean standing with feet shoulder-width apart, resting an arm casually on a chair, or spreading notes comfortably on a table. It says, I belong here. But beware of overcompensation. Sprawling across a seat or looming over others crosses into arrogance. True success strikes the balance, owning space without suffocating it. The voice as body language. Your voice is part of your body language too. A steady, resonant tone signals authority. Speaking too quickly can sound nervous. Speaking too slowly can lose attention. The rhythm of success is clear, confident, and varied enough to keep interest. And don't underestimate silence. Pausing at the right moments shows confidence. It says, I don't need to rush. My words are worth waiting for. The subtle signs of insecurity. To embody success, you must also eliminate the signals of insecurity. Watch out for these habits. Constantly touching your face, neck, or hair. Fidgeting with pens, phones, or jewelry. Crossing arms tightly across your chest. Avoiding eye contact or darting your gaze. Shrinking posture, collapsing inward instead of expanding outward. These behaviors undermine your words, no matter how brilliant they are. Replace them with open, steady movements, and your credibility will soar. A story of transformation. I once worked with a rising professional who struggled with presence. Her ideas were strong, but in meetings, she hunched over her notes, avoided eye contact, and spoke softly. Colleagues overlooked her contributions. Through posture exercises, voice training, and intentional gestures, she transformed. She began sitting tall, making steady eye contact, and speaking with controlled pauses. Within months, her colleagues treated her differently. She hadn't changed her ideas, only her body language. And that shift propelled her into leadership. That's the power of projecting success before you achieve it. Practical ritual for success. Here's a daily ritual to project success through body language. Stand tall. Before entering any room, roll your shoulders back, lift your chest, and align your spine. Breathe deep. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. Calm your nervous system. Set your face. Soften your expression. Add a genuine smile. Own your space. Plant your feet firmly. Spread your belongings naturally. Don't shrink. Gesture with purpose. Use open hands, controlled movements, and pauses. This ritual takes less than a minute, but it primes your body to broadcast success. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, do people currently see you as confident and successful, or do your nonverbal signals undermine your message? What one adjustment in your posture, gestures, or presence could elevate your influence today? Your challenge. For the next week, walk into every meeting, event, or interaction with the body language of success. Stand tall, breathe deeply, and let your presence announce your confidence before you say a word. Bringing it all together. Success is not just what you achieve, it's what you project. Your body language shapes how people treat you, trust you, and follow you. When you master the signals of success, you don't just look the part, you live into it. In the next chapter, we'll take this knowledge into high-stakes situations, negotiations, interviews, and conflicts, where body language can tip the scales in your favor. And if this chapter gave you tools to carry yourself with greater confidence, don't forget, share your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you'll never miss the next step on this journey. Chapter 15. High-stakes situations. There are moments in life when everything is on the line. A job interview, a negotiation, a difficult conversation with a partner, a presentation that could make or break your career. In these moments, words matter, but body language often decides the outcome. Think about it. When you walk into a high-stakes situation, people are sizing you up instantly. Are you confident, trustworthy, nervous? Even if you rehearse your words perfectly, if your body betrays tension or insecurity, your message weakens. But if your body broadcasts calm strength, people lean in. Pause and reflect. How much more successful would you be if you could walk into any high-pressure room and radiate confidence, clarity, and presence? The pressure problem. Here's the challenge. Under pressure, our bodies often betray us. The heart races, breathing becomes shallow, shoulders tighten, hands fidget. These natural stress responses are survival mechanisms. But in modern life, they can sabotage high-stakes moments. The key is awareness and preparation. If you can control your body under stress, you gain an enormous advantage. Job interviews. Confidence versus nerves. Let's start with interviews. Candidates often sabotage themselves, not with poor answers, but with poor body language. Slouching in the chair signals low energy. Crossing arms signals defensiveness. Fidgeting with a pen signals nerves. Avoiding eye contact signals insecurity. Now contrast that with success posture. Sitting tall, shoulders relaxed, feet planted, hands visible and calm. Add steady eye contact, occasional nods, and genuine smiles, and suddenly, the same words sound far more convincing. Remember this, interviewers hire not just for skills, but for presence. They're asking themselves, would I trust this person in front of clients? Would I want them on my team? Body language answers those questions before your resume does. Negotiations. Authority without aggression. Negotiations are another high-stakes arena. Here, balance is everything. Too soft, and you seem weak. Too hard, and you alienate the other side. Body language can strike that balance. Sit or stand upright, projecting authority. Lean forward slightly when making a point, showing engagement. Lean back slightly when listening, signaling calm control. Keep gestures measured and palms visible, projecting honesty. Avoid crossing arms or looming over others. Both signal aggression. One negotiator I coached transformed his approach simply by mastering body language. Before, he leaned too far forward, spoke too quickly, and fidgeted with his papers. Clients felt pressured and pulled back. After training, he slowed his movements, leaned in only at key points, and allowed pauses to land. Suddenly, his presence shifted from pushy to persuasive, and his close rate soared. Public speaking, commanding the room. Few situations are more nerve-wracking than standing in front of an audience. But here's the secret. Your body language can make or break your speech. Sometimes even more than your words. Plant your feet. Avoid pacing aimlessly. Stand firmly to project stability. Use open gestures. Let your hands support your message, not distract from it. Make eye contact. Sweep the room naturally, as if conversing with individuals, not staring into space. Pause with purpose. Silence is powerful. It lets your words sink in and signals confidence. Audiences decide quickly whether to trust you. Strong, calm body language earns that trust far faster than slides or data ever could. Difficult conversations. De-escalation through calm. High-stakes situations aren't just professional, they're personal. Think of moments when you've had to confront a friend, partner, or colleague. Emotions run high, and body language can either inflame or diffuse the situation. Here's what helps. Keep your palms open and visible. This signals non-aggression. Lower your shoulders and slow your breathing. Calm is contagious. Lean in slightly to show care, but don't invade space. Maintain steady, soft eye contact. Too little looks evasive. Too much feels confrontational. In tense conversations, people mirror each other's energy. If you radiate calm, you can guide the interaction away from conflict and toward resolution. The power of pre-game rituals. One secret of successful people is that they don't walk into high-stakes moments cold. They prepare their bodies as much as their words. Here's a simple ritual you can use. Breathe. Take slow, deep breaths to calm your nervous system. Posture. Reset. Stand tall, roll your shoulders back, open your chest. Visualize. Picture yourself walking in with confidence, speaking with ease, and succeeding. Smile. A genuine, relaxed smile resets your mindset and disarms tension. This takes less than 2 minutes, but it primes your body to broadcast confidence. A story of transformation under pressure. I once worked with a young attorney preparing for her first big trial. She knew the law inside and out, but her nerves showed in her posture, hunched shoulders, darting eyes, restless hands. She worried the jury wouldn't take her seriously. We built a ritual: breathing, posture resets, power stance. She practiced entering the courtroom with calm, steady movements. On the day of the trial, she walked in tall, projected warmth to the jury and presented with measured gestures. Her colleagues said she looked like a seasoned professional. She won the case, not because of what she knew, but because of how she carried herself while delivering it. That's the power of mastering body language in high-stakes situations. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, what's the highest stakes situation you face regularly? A client meeting? An interview? A tough conversation at home? How does your body usually respond? Does it project calm authority or nervous tension? Your challenge. Pick one upcoming high-pressure moment. Prepare not just your words, but your body. Practice the ritual. Enter with intention. Notice how differently people respond when your body language sets the tone. Bringing it all together. High-stakes situations don't have to control you. With awareness and preparation, you can control them. when your body language radiates calm confidence. You influence outcomes long before the words land. So remember, the pressure is real, but so is your power. And in those defining moments, your presence may be the deciding factor between failure and success. In the next and final chapter, we'll bring everything together. You'll learn how to sharpen your skills daily so that reading and projecting body language becomes second nature. And if this chapter gave you tools to face pressure with more confidence, don't forget, share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe. One more chapter to go, and it may be the most important of all. Chapter 16. Becoming a Master Observer. By now, you've journeyed through the silent language of the human body. You've learned to read feet, hands, eyes, posture, space, and clusters. You've explored comfort and discomfort cues, deception signals, cultural nuances, and the body language of success. But here's the truth. Knowledge alone won't make you a master. Mastery comes from practice. From sharpening your awareness every single day until reading body language becomes second nature. Pause and reflect. What if, from this day forward, you could walk into any room and instantly sense the energy, the unspoken dynamics, the hidden truths? How would that change your life? The observer's mindset. The first step toward mastery is mindset. Master observers live in a state of curiosity, not judgment. They don't look at someone fidgeting and think, that person is lying. Instead, they think, interesting. What's making them uncomfortable right now? Curiosity keeps you open. It prevents arrogance and protects relationships. When you approach body language as exploration rather than accusation, people feel safer around you, and you learn far more. Daily practice in the real world. You don't need a classroom to practice. The world is your laboratory. Here are simple ways to sharpen your skills every day. Observe in silence. Next time you're at a cafe, put your phone down. Watch people interact. Notice their feet, posture, gestures. Ask yourself, who's leading? Who's disengaged? Who's interested? Turn down the volume. Mute the TV and watch a conversation without sound. Can you guess the emotions, the power dynamics, the comfort levels? Then unmute and check if you were right. Spot the transitions. Pay attention not just to signals, but to shifts. When did someone go from comfortable to uncomfortable? What triggered it? Track your own signals. Notice your body in meetings or conversations. Do you cross your arms when nervous? Do your feet drift toward the exit when bored? Self-awareness builds credibility. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Building empathy through observation. At its heart, mastering body language isn't about manipulation. It's about empathy. When you can see someone's discomfort, you can respond with compassion. When you sense their excitement, you can share it. When you notice their fear, you can ease it. Empathy is influence. People trust those who truly see them. And when you listen with your eyes as well as your ears, you connect on a level most people never reach. The ripple effect of mastery. When you become a master observer, every part of your life improves. In business, you negotiate more effectively, lead with authority, and sense the truth behind polite words. In relationships, you connect more deeply, resolve conflicts more smoothly, and strengthen bonds through empathy. In personal growth, you gain confidence by mastering your own signals, projecting success before you fully feel it. It's not about tricking people, it's about clarity, clarity of perception, clarity of presence, clarity of connection. The feedback loop. Here's a powerful insight. The more you read others, the more you refine yourself. When you see the impact of nervous fidgeting on someone else, you catch yourself doing it. When you notice the power of open posture in others, you adopt it. Observation improves both sides of the equation. Over time, you'll find your body language naturally aligning with the confidence and authenticity you admire in others. A story of transformation. One of my students once told me, I used to feel invisible in meetings. People overlooked me, talked over me. I thought it was because my ideas weren't good enough. But after practicing body language awareness, I realized it wasn't my ideas, it was my presence. She started small, sitting taller, keeping her hands visible, making steady eye contact. She began noticing when others showed discomfort and adjusted her delivery. Slowly, her colleagues responded differently. They leaned in, they listened, they treated her ideas with respect. Months later, she said, "I didn't just learn to read others, I learned to rewrite how others read me." That's the transformation available to you. Practical Mastery Routine. If you want to turn these lessons into a lifelong skill, here's a mastery routine you can practice daily. Morning reset. Begin each day with 1 minute of posture alignment and deep breathing. Set your nonverbal intention. Today, I project confidence and openness. Observation challenge. Pick one setting each day: a meeting, a cafe, a conversation. Focus on reading body language for 5 minutes. Write down your observations later. Self-check. At least once a day, pause and ask, "What is my body saying right now?" Adjust posture, gestures, and expression as needed. Weekly reflection. At the end of each week, review your notes. Where did you read correctly? Where did you misinterpret? Reflection accelerates growth. Do this consistently, and within months, your awareness will surpass 90% of people around you. Reflection and challenge. Pause and ask yourself, are you ready to see the world in high definition? To notice what others miss? To hear the unspoken conversations happening in every room? Your final challenge is this. For the next 30 days, commit to being an observer, not just casually, but intentionally. Practice daily. Take notes. Reflect weekly. If you do, you'll notice a shift, not just in how you see others, but in how they see you. Bringing it all together. The body never stops speaking. Most people ignore it, but you now have the tools to listen. When you master observation, you gain influence without force, empathy without effort, and clarity without confusion. You become the person others trust, not because you know all the answers, but because you truly see them. That is the hidden gift of body language mastery. So as you step forward from this book, remember, every room you enter, every conversation you have, every silent signal you notice, that's your practice ground. Use it, sharpen it, live it. And if this journey has opened your eyes, don't forget, share your reflections in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more. Because the world is always speaking. Now, you have the power to listen.